I'm Kat.
And I'm Tom.
And we run a theater company called Theatre Brouhaha.
So this is what happens when you punch theater into Google.
So we also think of images like this when we think of traditional theater, a bunch of people on stage in costumes in front of a set talking for a very long time. But when we think of movies, we think of this.
We tend to think of very specific movies. We think of our favorite movies. We don't think of movies on the whole. Similarly, when we think about television,
not television as a whole, but the shows that we like, that excite us, the ones that we have chosen to see out of all of the other shows that we could possibly have chosen to see. And part of it is that you probably see way more film and TV than you see theater. We work in theater, and we see more film and TV than we see theater. The average Canadian adult watches about 30 hours of television a week.
So to put that in perspective, you would need to watch 10 3-hour plays a week just to keep up with your television watching, not even to mention movies or video games, which is crazy.
So if we as theater artists want you to see the stories that we want to tell, we have to acknowledge that this is what we're up against and that we live in an age of content.
In fact, we live in the age of content. Right now, in most of your pockets is a device that gives you access to thousands of hours of incredible content. In fact, some people are probably streaming us right now instead of doing their work.
And content right now is totally a buyer's market, right? If you don't like what you're listening to, Spotify will recommend something else. Netflix analyzes what you watch and recommends similar programming. Facebook and YouTube recommend videos based on videos you've already liked, which is why I watch almost exclusively videos of babies holding puppies, which is like just the best.
So, how do you stand out amongst the many videos of babies holding puppies in the year 2015? Well, the key is audiences, thinking about your audiences and putting them first. Because after all, it's not about us, it's about you.
So Tom and I went to school together, and we knew that when we graduated, we wanted to work in theater. But after spending about 2 years working in Toronto as actors, we realized we spent so much time complaining that the theater that we were seeing wasn't speaking to us.
Yeah, cool. This was particularly problematic because people were telling us that it was our fault, that our generation wasn't coming to theater, and as a result, theater was dying.
They were saying that it was a dying art, and more importantly, that we were actually contributing to this art dying because we, as young people, weren't seeing enough theater.
So we started thinking about why that was. Why weren't people like us going to the theater anymore? And part of it is that we weren't seeing ourselves on stage as much as we'd like. We live in a post-internet age, and it was insane because we weren't seeing cell phones. We weren't seeing the internet represented on stage. Now, in film and TV, we're seeing it constantly. So, as theater creators, we decided that it was time for us to take a page out of their books to help us with something we were struggling with.
So we started thinking about what we like and why we like it. So when we founded Theatre Brouhaha, HBO was going real strong with shows like Entourage and True Blood, and AMC had just launched shows like The Walking Dead and Breaking Bad.
It just started, yep.
And these were shows with incredibly well-developed plots, interesting characters, high stakes, and we loved them, and so did our friends, and so did the audience that we wanted to attract.
And so we dubbed this audience the HBO generation. These are people who are watching incredible stories that are dark, that are exciting, that are funny, that have very slick production values, and, like season 1 of True Blood, have advertising that really tells them a story.
So you don't really wonder what this is about, right? Sex and vampires. It's a no-brainer. Either you want to watch it or you don't, and this image tells you everything that you need to know about what you're going to see.
But it's 2015. A lot of time's passed since we started the company, and now the HBO generation has evolved into the Netflix generation. Now what we're finding is, unlike with cable, you're able to actually queue up the content that you want to watch. This is very important because it means that our audiences, you, as an audience, are becoming smarter. You're becoming experts at what you like and what you dislike in terms of content and where to find it. So unlike before, where you used to have to just watch whatever someone had decided to show you on a channel, now you can whip out your cell phone, turn on your computer, and watch whatever you want, whenever you want, however you'd like to watch it.
So if you're like me and you want to watch like 15 episodes of Orange is the New Black in a row and not leave your house, thank you, you can totally do that. Because where HBO delivered quality in weekly doses, Netflix delivers choice and quantity and has developed this binge watch model.
So that's awesome. You have all of this incredible content at your fingertips. And then we come along and we're like, screw that, come out of your house, come to our theater, spend more than $8.99 a month, come out in the cold, and come sit in a dark room with us for a few hours and watch a show. So if we're gonna ask you to do that, we need to make sure that our content is something that you want to watch, that it's worth leaving your house for.
So we tried to think of what we do not just as making theater, but as creating content. We don't want to make high art. We want to tell you a story, something that'll make you laugh, something that'll make you cry, something that'll give you something to talk about with your friends afterwards. In short, we want to entertain you.
Right, so when we see something or hear something that gets us excited, that we think is kind of cool, it's our job to then convince you that this is also a cool idea and that it's worth leaving your house for.
So in the same way with, say, sports, that watching Jose Bautista flip that bat in the stadium, totally different than watching it on TV. Seeing something live in a room with the actors, with the rest of the audience is such a different, visceral experience. And we want you to have fun. We don't want to make quiet theater. We want you yelling. We want you laughing. So we have to make sure that what we're talking about is at least in part about you and not just us as creators. So if Tom wants to do Hamlet as like a snowboarding alien, that's really awesome, Tom. But you have to explain to us why we should think that's cool.
Well, it's Hamlet as an alien on a skateboard,
Okay,
so
yeah,
I think
that's
that's
fine.
pretty good. But the important thing is that we need to consider our audience when generating our work. Now, in this particular regard, Kat and I have a bit of an advantage because Kat writes most of our material from scratch. As a result, once we've identified our target audience, we're able to bring them in right from the top and keep them right in the center of our work. Kat writes very quickly, so once we have an audience and an idea, like our friend Hamlet here, that we think is really cool, we can get it on the stage very, very quickly. In fact, if Kat's excited enough about an idea, she can generally punch out a play in a week, sometimes a day.
Part of that is being as open as possible to constructive criticism and knowing that the sooner that I can get something in front of an audience, the sooner that I can get feedback and the benefit of their brains, their ideas, and their humor involved in what I'm saying. And because we control our process from start to finish, we're able to bring the audience in at the beginning rather than at the end when it's too late.
Now, we also know that our audiences want varied content. They want things that, they have TV, they have film, they see a lot of things. So as a result, we need to be bringing them different content all the time.
We have to say things that are current. But I wouldn't make a joke about the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge fails because that's not funny anymore. That happened a year ago. Now, I would probably try to make a joke about Drake's new video. So when we were trying to figure out what people liked, what people really wanted, we had to think about a certain kind of demographic, a new demographic that was just finding ways to spend their money that now they don't have to spend on things they need, but can spend on things they want, so the young professional.
We were thinking about who this kind of person was. Who is this one person that we never, ever see entering the theater?
So it was my little sister's douchey ex-boyfriend.
It is her little sister's douchey ex-boyfriend.
Totally. So we thought a lot about what this guy wants, what this guy needs, what kind of an experience he's looking for.
Well, okay, it's Friday night, so he's pretty excited. He's got a lot of Red Bull to drink.
So much Red Bull.
Yep. He and his boys are going to go to Wahlburgers, which they saw on TV, so they're pretty jazzed about it. They might go to a comedy club. They might go see some live music. They might see some stand-up, watch a Leafs game, Netflix and chill. But they're not going to the theater. Now, why is that?
Well, they're not going to the theater because it's probably going to be super boring. And once upon a time, his parents took him to a show and he didn't like it, so now he hates all theater. So why do we care about him?
Well, because this guy's actually an extraordinarily important demographic. And theater people and any consumer-driven business has been trying to grab this demographic forever. They're vital. It's the young professional, and as Kat indicated, this is a person who is developing their cultural habits, who finally has money to spend on the kind of things that we create.
So we started to think about what this guy likes.
Well, we already know that he's watching dark, fast, edgy television.
He probably really likes sex. He thinks a lot about money.
He probably secretly wants love. And so
we took our research real literal on the first one, but it totally worked. And we sold out our entire run, mostly with the majority of the tickets being bought online via Groupon because we sold them during Valentine's Day week and it felt like a great date night.
So our audiences want vastly different things. We know this about them. So for instance, we need to keep things fresh. You wouldn't go and see the same movie about the same thing over and over and over again. Similarly, you wouldn't go see a play about love, sex, money each time you see a play. So for instance, our play Liver, which was about a guy who died and then came back to life without his liver, it was a play we did recently. Our next one then would be about late night talk shows and the scandals therein.
So a huge part of the TV hype machine is obviously slick, sexy marketing. They choose pictures that are engaging and interesting and tell a story. So why can't we do that?
So take, for example, Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is obviously a show that we've all heard about. Breaking Bad's pitch is very, very simple. It's very to the point, but it's excellent. A dying chemistry teacher and his student build a criminal empire by cooking and selling meth. Cool, awesome. I know exactly whether or not I want to see that show and what it's going to be about.
So we knew when we were talking about Love, Sex, Money that we had to have a slick elevator pitch to pitch that show. So in Love, Sex, Money, a student sells her virginity online to the highest bidder, prompting her ex-boyfriend to buy a high-tech sex robot on the internet that looks exactly like her.
In Cockfight, 3 hard-luck foster brothers buy a rooster, and while trying to teach it how to fight, end up in a massive fight with each other.
In Retreat, a group of bloodthirsty interns fight to the literal death for a high-paying corporate gig.
Basically, what we found is that if we can't hook you with an image or hook you with a small elevator pitch, then we're not really doing our jobs, particularly in the age of content.
And the same is even more true for live events, right? We've already said that our audiences are super nervous about wasting their time on an unknown quantity. So we have to make sure we can get them with the pitch and the elevator statement.
Which brings us to our friend, Hugh Grant.
So I saw a movie once that Hugh Grant was in, and I remember it because I have a huge thing for Hugh Grant. And in it, he said that our day is made up of units of time. So getting your hair cut, 2 units. Having lunch, 1 unit. Waiting for various vehicles from the TTC, like 1 to 108 units. And these units are important because you only have so many in your day.
So when we hear theater, if we go back to Kat's little sister's ex-boyfriend for a moment, when this guy hears theater, we're worried that he's thinking, that's going to be my whole night. That's going to use up all of the units of my night. We don't think it should. We want to be an exciting part of your evening, not the entire thing.
So we're really mindful of this. All of our shows are about an hour and a half, no intermission, which is shorter than your average movie and definitely way shorter than your last Netflix binge.
So in summation, and this goes for you no matter what kind of content you're creating. Obviously, we do theater, so that's what we're going to talk about. You could be a filmmaker, you could be a writer, you could be writing a cover letter to a potential employer. What we're really getting at is that in the age of content, audience is absolutely key. You need to figure out what they need, what they want, respect their time, and become their champion.
We think that our audiences, hopefully you, want high-stakes, fast-paced, funny, engaging stories that give you something to think about. So why shouldn't we give that to you? Instead of complaining that our audiences are going to TV and film, why not borrow elements from those art forms and bring them into what we do?
We've all been audiences. We've all seen what works and what doesn't work when audiences are disrespected. In this day and age, no matter what you do, be your audience's champion and they'll let you play.
It's not about us, it's about you.
Thanks very much.